Another young defenseman back in the fold. But what does the contract say about how the Rangers really think about him? Plus, Coach Mike Sullivan goes on record with a few quotes about what we can expect this upcoming season. NHL.com's 32 and 32 helps us with that. Plus, EA Sports gives some respect to Adam Fox. Been an interesting week for the rating of defensemen. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Rangers Daily. I am your host, Todd Werwa. Thank you so much for joining me. Please hit the subscribe button. Be a part of this community. It's a fantastic group. Lots to say. Everybody's a big fan of the Rangers, big fan of hockey. I appreciate you all being a part of the show. So subscribe. Leave your comments down below. You're upset, you're thrilled, anything, let me know about it. You got questions for me? Fire away. Got questions about the Rangers? Ask away. If you're on the podcast platforms, follow the show, subscribe, leave a good rating if you're so kind, and as well, give me a thumbs up if you like the content I'm providing. It helps build the algorithm. It helps build the community, gets more people seen. And if you're on Facebook watching this or watching clips, thank you for finding me there. All right. First order of business, Scott Morrow is signed to a one-year deal. It's a two-way deal, about $850,000 for the NHL salary. Excuse me, $125,000 for the AHL salary. So what that means is he can go, he can play in Hartford, he can play in the NHL. A one-way deal means you get a paycheck. It's going to be the same number whether you're at the minor league level or the NHL level. The two-way deal, you get one value if you're on the NHL roster. You get another value if you're on the AHL roster. Obviously, there's a huge difference. By this being a two-way deal, it kind of implies like they don't really know what to do with Morrow and that he'll wind up starting in the AHL, but could have a fantastic camp. We know he has defensive deficiencies, but let's call them offensive superlatives. He's very good on the offensive part of the game. I think there's hope for him, if that's the right word. Could he be packaged for something else? See, here's the issue. He's got to clear waivers if he's sent to the AHL. I don't know that he's your seventh or eighth defenseman that's going to play, one game out of five, let's say. Is he supplanting Braden Schneider from that third pair right shot, right side defense group? Not sure. So I'm a little worried about what they see in him. He's destined for the AHL. As we talked yesterday, though, they added Bob Woods, knows defenseman, makes defenseman a whole lot better. Now that there's a legit coaching staff in the AHL in Hartford, maybe that's where Morrow belongs, to get some more training, work on the defensive side of the game, as well as improve his offensive skills, but really hone in on being a defender first. At least get him to, average abilities and not be a liability, and really help him build trust with the NHL coaching staff. Some of that will happen in camp as well. I think he's destined for that AHL spot and will obviously get called up. Nobody's healthy every game. Sullivan doesn't keep the units the same every game. We'll see him, that's for sure. Having to go through waivers complicates a little bit. Will someone try to take a chance on a, 24, 25-year-old right shot defenseman? Maybe. And maybe they think they can develop him, but I don't know. I think they're kind of safe to try and get him through waivers, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see what kind of camp he has, what kind of development, what kind of full-on training camp he has when he's shown. We'll see how much he's done over the summer, see how much he's learned. But Scott Morrow back in the fold, we've been kind of waiting for it. I think that it's a good signing. They need to see if the piece from the Keandre Miller deal, is it as important as Cole Baudouin doing, becoming a NHL player because of the Vincent Trocheck trade, or Liam Greentree becoming an NHL player as part of the Panarin trade? No, those guys really got to shine because you really needed to get your value for those other guys. This Morrow part of the Keandre Miller deal, they'd love to get value for him, but it doesn't have to come right away. Let's get him to become a proper defensively skilled defenseman in addition to his excellent uh, offensive skills. And they don't need him to be a power play quarterback just yet, unless Sean Dursey gets hurt. Boy, Sean Dursey better not get hurt. Interesting, because it's a 1 year deal. A lot of defensemen on 1 year deals, right? Morrow's on a 1 year deal. Braden Schneider is on a 1 year deal. Earl Vakanainen has 1 year left on his deal. Matthew Robertson has 1 year left on his deal. So potential for a lot of turnover, or potential to use those trade chips as, partial rentals for somebody that needs extra defensemen as they're getting ready for a playoff run. Certainly, all those guys are serviceable defensemen at different levels of play. All right. NHL.com, finally, their 32 for 32 got to the New York Rangers. Dan Rosen, who I know and have worked with and respect immensely, he did the write-up for the New York Rangers. Now, I hope he talked directly to Sullivan as opposed to getting quotes from another time. I think he did, but he never said, Mike Sullivan said when I talked to him on, Tuesday of last week, I assume they're not generic press conference bites or anything like that, but Dan has a pretty good way of getting the one-on-ones. But Sullivan had some good bites. He said, we're certainly a better team on paper. We're looking forward to exploring different combinations for what we think will give us the balance that we need and the balanced production that is so important to helping teams win consistently in this league. That tells me a little bit, which I'll get to in a minute, that tells me a little bit that they don't necessarily have the top 6 or even the top 9 set in stone. Yeah, there are parts of it, but who'll play with Pavel Dorofeyev, who'll be on the the right side of line 1? That's probably Laffy's spot. Where does Gabe Perreault wind up going? Is Dorofeyev on line 1 or line 2? One would think line 1, but it all depends on the center combination. Plus, everyone's assuming it's Fox and Gavrikov and Dursey and Pettersson, and then, likely Schneider and Robertson, but it could be Schneider and Smits. There's nothing per se set in stone. I think that's a good thing. Sullivan talked about the defense right after the year in the exit interviews. They talked about wanting more puck handling defensemen, and obviously they need to build their team speed. And Sullivan had a pretty good quote about how they're going to do it. It's not just getting fast players. He talked about the defense. We talked about trying to improve our team speed, and it starts with our ability to move the puck. And I think those guys on the blue line are going to help us in that regard. They are much better puck movers, Pettersson and Dursey, obviously Fox, but certainly than the Borgen, Carson Soucy group that was pairing number 2 last year. And let's face it, if you can carry the puck, fantastic, that gets everybody moving. But if you can make that first outlet pass to guys who are moving and hit them in stride and let them keep moving instead of bottling things up in the neutral zone and having to chip and chase, that helps team speed better, right? You can play a little more on the rush, get more rush chances, especially with some cross-ice passes, just lead to goals. So I think that's all good. Sullivan also talked about Noah Laba needing him to step up to fill some of the void that Vincent Trocheck leaves. A lot of that is faceoffs. A lot of that is defensive zone faceoffs. Especially, he said he has good size. He can really skate, and I think he has the aptitude for the game. He's got some offensive side he can continue to evolve and build. Will put him in difficult situations against other teams' best players. So he really wants him to take that step up offensively, knows it's there. But a lot of those D-zone faceoffs, a lot of, hey, we're sending our third line out against the other team because we've got a third line that most likely could be Noah Laba, Will Cooley, and Ty Cartier, let's say, on the right, or could be, Taylor Radish on the right. But Laba can put pressure on. He can forecheck. He can win you defensive faceoffs. He can track down pucks. He's got size. He can hit in the neutral zone. He can hit in your own end. I think there's going to be an expansion of what Laba needs to do. I think he can take that step, but it's why I think he is as important as most of the other Rangers. There's Adam Fox staying healthy. There's Shesterkin staying healthy. There's JT Miller being a true captain and leader on the ice and off the ice. That I think is the biggest thing that needs to go right for the Rangers, being healthy and being back to a little bit of that player that people can look to, that can be a leader, that doesn't take defensive shifts off, etc. But Noah Laba is going to be really important to the success of this team, filling in certain voids. So I think all that's everybody's sort of psyched to see this team hit the ice and see what they've got. It's definitely a different mix than the disappointment of last year. I think Sullivan appreciates that. I think he's really ready for, hey, give me a team that can compete for something, right? Doesn't have to necessarily be a cup contender yet, but give me a team that I can put the goal out there of first step to winning a cup is getting in the playoffs. Let's focus on making the playoffs and put that as our goal and make that our improvement step this year. And I'm excited to see how the pieces come together. Let's hope for health. Let's hope, things break the right way, so to speak. All right. That question I asked, who centers Pavel Dorofeyev? Dan mentioned it in one of the three questions for the Rangers as part of this 32 for 32. And it's a really good question. Who's going to center the line with Pavel Dorofeyev? We know, what the power play will likely look like, right? It'll be Adam Fox, Dorofeyev, Mika, JT, and Lafreniere. It gives great flexibility. It allows Dorofeyev with his left shot. It allows Mika with his right shot, right? They can be on the opposite circles, and JT in the bumper, Laffy in front, and they can rotate around a bit. I'm not worried about the power play, but it's the 5-on-5 where the team had tremendous difficulty scoring last season, down in the bottom third of the league, especially at 5-on-5 scoring. Power play was fifth overall, so power play had no issue even with the injuries and cockamamie formations. But 5-on-5 was abysmal. So they went into some of the numbers with Dorofeyev. Sully talked about both guys, JT and Mika, having the ability to get him the puck, being Dorofeyev. Now, they went in the article, Mika's a right shot like Jack Eichel. Eichel was really good with Dorofeyev in the playoffs. Thomas Hertl, lefty, was really good with Dorofeyev in the regular season. So from Dan's article, when Eichel was on with Dorofeyev, Eichel had an assist on 10 of the 37 Dorofeyev regular season goals and on 8 of the 12 in the playoffs. With Hertl, who's a lefty, he had an assist on 8 of the 37 regular season goals and 4 of the 12 in the playoffs. But that doesn't actually tell the story, because that takes into account the power play scoring. When you look at natural stat trick at 5-on-5, in the regular season, really he mostly played with Hertl. So when that line with Dorofeyev and Hertl were on the ice, they scored 12 goals. The other person on that line was Mitch Marner, in this case, a right-handed shot, and they scored 12 goals. With Eichel at 5-on-5, they really were barely together in the regular season. They only played 33 minutes. When they were on the ice together on that line at 5-on-5 again, they only scored 2 goals in those 33 minutes. The other person varied from Howden, Ivan Barbashev, and again, Mitch Marner. So I think there's a definite difference of him playing with a righty center versus a lefty center. Here's the playoff numbers. When that Eichel-Dorofeyev line were on the ice, they scored 9 goals together in the playoffs. When it was Hertl with Dorofeyev for a very minimal amount of time, 0 goals. I think Mika's the leader in the clubhouse to play with Dorofeyev, to keep the righty center going with Dorofeyev's left shot. I just think it would keep it more natural for Dorofeyev. It would keep him more like he's used to. Will you see him on the Dorofeyev on the second line, or with JT? Yes, I'm sure at some point you will, and they'll work through that in training camp. But I think Doro plays with Mika because of the right shot. Mika's a fantastic passer. He scores, he gets his shots, he gets his rush chances. He gets all that stuff, but he's also a fantastic passer. I think Lafreniere's an underrated passer as well, but I keep, or at least start with Mika and Dorofeyev to keep that righty sort of signpost down the middle, so to speak. Much better, much better with a righty center than he was with the lefty center with Hurdle at 5-on-5. And that's, I think, where the Rangers really, really need to find a way to get the most out of Dorofeyev. Again, no worries on the power play. It's the 5-on-5 scoring that needs to change and will make a difference in where the Rangers finish next year or this coming year. All right, finally, EA Sports NHL 27 put out their rankings, their player evaluations. No surprise. Connor McDavid has a 99, but Fox seemingly got a little bit of love. At first, I was like, hey, about time after seeing him, 13th in the NHL network defense ratings. He's actually the third-ranked right shot defenseman, a right side defenseman in the game. He has an overall rating of 89. So Fox is third behind Cale Makar and Evan Bouchard. Makar has a 95, Bouchard 91. So not that far. The numbers are all a little bit higher for the left side defenseman. There's a whole ton of names from Werenski and Quinn Hughes to Victor Hedman to, there's a whole big bunch. Overall in the game, the highest Ranger is, not a surprise, Igor Shesterkin. He has an overall rating of 91. He's the fourth goalie behind Vasi, Sorokin, and Hellebuck. He's ahead of Logan Thompson. If you actually wind up rating all the defensemen, Fox, they actually have him as 13th also. It goes Makar, Werenski, Hughes, Dahlin, Heiskanen, Bouchard, Schaefer, Jacob Slavin, Roman Josi, Victor Hedman, Josh Morrissey, Lane Hudson, and then Adam Fox. So he does wind up sort of overall 13, but they separated out right D and left D. Fox's number of 89 puts him ranked 52nd overall in the NHL. Pretty good. His numbers overall, like I said, 89. Acceleration, an 87. Speed, 86. Kind of on the lower end of the top defenseman, no surprise. His deking, 92. Fox has moves. His passing, 93. Fox is an extraordinary passer. Slap shot power, 83. Wrist shot power, 84. We know it's much more about the sifting the shot through for the ability to deflect or the ability to, get it through screens as opposed to the, rafter tickling giant slap shot that some other guys have. Yeah, I looked up. There's comparable numbers. Victor Hedman isn't that fast either, but he's high ranked up there. Interesting, in that top 13 of the ranked defensemen, there are only 3 right side defensemen in there. It just tells you how valuable that position is. Some other Rangers, just so you know, as I mentioned, so Fox 52nd overall, Mika 121st overall at 87, so he's not far behind. Dorofeyev 125 with a rating of 87. JT rating of 86 at 147. Gavrikov also 86 at 169. And Lafreniere at 85. He's 213 overall in the league. So interesting stuff. If you want to see all the ratings, have a little fun. It's always good to see rankings. Whether you play the video game or not, it's a good sense of who does what and who's respected and who gets underrated and disrespected. Go to ea.com/games/NHL/ratings. No, I do not get paid, or they didn't ask me to say that or anything like that. I just find it fun. I just find it fun to look at the ratings. I'm not really a big video game guy, but, those ratings are, again, a good indication of where people view players stacked up against one another in this league. All right, so that's all I've got for today. Enjoy the day. Think about it being the anniversary of the Rangers finally signing Eric Lindros. That happened back in 2001. Enjoy summer. It's ticking away, and training camp will be here before you know it. So subscribe, get on board now. Listen, watch on the podcast platforms. Watch on Facebook, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, and right here on YouTube. Leave the comments. Hit that subscribe button again. It's free. You're not committed to anything. but you can leave me a thumbs up if you like my content as well. That's all I got for you today. As always, thanks for being a part of the community, and thanks for watching.